Namaskar. Welcome to this session of Straight Drive. I am Sudhanshu Mani. The latest buzzword in news for the last month or so has been Atmanirbhar Bharat, and that is what we are going to talk about today. We will do it in two parts, and this is the first part on this Saturday. On the 12th of May, in by now a very famous speech, the PM made a very impassioned pitch for Atmanirbhar Bharat, intertwined within the global platform with the spirit of Vishwa Kalyan and Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. His discourse was that India will somehow altruistically accommodate world aspirations in its movement towards self-reliance, Atmanirbharta. He evoked the worldwide appeal of yoga. He talked of the export of medicines by India to help the world, fashioning India as a vanguard on the global path to help mankind. He spoke with his usual flair. He invoked pride and passion among a vast army of his supporters who look for a message in the deliverer himself and not in the message, and they rarely do a reality check. On the other hand, there are many detractors and opponents, smaller in number but equally vocal and very virulent, who never see anything right in what he says, and they were ready with their criticism, and they are seldom charitable in anything that Prime Minister does or speaks of. Unfortunately, none of them really listen to what is said. What we will try to do today is listen to what the PM said and find some meaning in that. The PM had talked about 20 lakh crore package, the lockdown, but what he said also was Arth Banam Manav Kendrit Vaishvikta. That is, the globalization should be people-centric and not money-centric, and I am yet to find exact meaning in that, so we will leave it. He also talked of Sankalp Shakti for Atmanirbharta. He evoked that we should have the will, the determination in this trying time of COVID pandemic to turn it into an opportunity. The Prime Minister said that Atmanirbharta for Bharat, for India, lies in the ancient culture and spiritual ethos, unfortunately, which makes it immune to inquisition of mortal realities and scientific pragmatism. Anyway, his speech was layered in past glory of India, subsequent subjugation, and now the mantle falling on him to lead India to self-reliance. Well, friends, beyond the Shakespearean sound and fury, signifying God knows what, let us cherry pick and try to find meaning in self-reliance for us. Self-reliance obviously should have been in focus for a long time. So we will try to read what was said and read what was not said, extract some doables, and see how the intent of self-reliance can be harnessed. At a very basic level, self-reliance would mean promotion of local products, obviating imports. When he talked of the package of 20 lakh crores, it would generally mean that an effort was being made to revive the lost production. So, revive what we already had and to some extent invite FDI. So what was the first fallout of his speech? Boycott of Chinese goods. It didn't help that we had border problems with China simultaneously. So the message going around, the discourse was ban all Chinese products. You would have received a message saying delete all Chinese apps, TikTok and other apps. Is that our patriotism? Can our patriotism be so infantile? In India, we believe so much in symbolism that the symbol itself becomes the destination, but the meaning behind the action is totally lost. Look around yourself at the Chinese products. Your laptop, your cameras, your electronic goods, smartphones, kitchen utensils, household goods, even Indian flags, they are getting made in China and exported to us. You would have heard that even the Statue of Unity has a big Chinese component in it. So is it that the public, the general public, has to bear the cross of not buying Chinese and purchasing shoddier stuff at higher price? Or will it lie upon government to do something about it? Well, the government will not, and mostly it cannot. Why? Because the government has to follow the WTO guidelines. WTO guidelines do provide for anti-dumping traffic, countervailing duties against unfair subsidies, even embargo on certain goods in case of a surge in imports or any contingency of similar nature. But these have to be based on an inquisition, an investigation, and we have to substantiate it to WTO. It cannot be based on whims and fancies. I'm sure the intention is not to promote non-competitive local manufacturers. Now look at the scenario. We have a number of Indian companies who have set up shop in China. They manufacture there and bring it in India to sell it here. Similarly, we have a number of Chinese companies who have set up factories in India. They manufacture in India and sell in India. Are we going to boycott those products? At another plane, let's examine what a powerful powerhouse of manufacture China is. The world export percentage for China is 14 to 15% today, whereas for India it is 2%. And this includes services. So if we talk about manufacturing alone, the number would be higher. China exports to the world, but his biggest partners of China are USA, Japan, South Korea, and for India, it is USA and then China, and of course UAE and Saudi Arabia. We should also see that our exports to China have risen marginally in recent years, whereas as a percentage of our total exports, whereas the Chinese imports to India as a percentage of our total imports have been reducing marginally from 16-17% some time back to around 14% now. We have to also see that there is tension today between US and China on the trade front. This is an opportunity for India to deal both with China and USA. So why disturb the apple cart? Our trade with China is a small fraction of their overall trade. And if we engage in this boycott of Chinese goods and so on, we will likely have a bloodied nose than China. I'm reminded of Touchstone in As You Like It of Shakespeare, where he says that a fool doth think he is wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool. This is a time to be wisely foolish and not foolishly wise. We need to strengthen our manufacturing. We cannot close doors. We have to make products of quality and then play on the domestic volumes to move further in it. We of course need moral as well as financial support from the government. The Chinese model has worked on hidden subsidies, overt and covert subsidies, and they afford their industries to sell abroad riding on these subsidies, but at the same time, in time or later, they also have a robust domestic demand. In such a scenario, we cannot take a stance that we will export, but we will not import. Let me give you an example of Japan. Japan has practically no raw materials. It imports all the raw materials it uses, converts them into finished goods, and is one of the leading manufacturers of the world. So friends, we have to make Atmanirbhar Bharat mean an ecosystem where we manage our supply chains effectively. As much as possible in India, certainly, but not restricted to India. Now, we have sectors like food and defense. We can certainly advocate that self-reliance in these fields should be near total because we have to keep emergencies in mind. At the same time, in all other sectors, it should be comparative advantage focus. We can do a lot, but we won't do everything. We should do what we do better. On these bases, we have to expand our manufacturing with increased Indian and global sourcing. Let me give an example of machine tools. We have not reached a good level of manufacture of machine tools in India, but they are very important for any manufacturing. If Make in India has to progress, we have to have good machine tools, and therefore we have to keep importing machine tools from Germany, Japan, and other advanced countries. It is also time to redefine Make in India. Make in India today has only a manufacturing content. We have to bring in innovation and designs. Let me give you an example. We have been a big success in the pharma sector, but we are basically a factory of the world. We hardly develop any drugs. These drugs are developed in laboratories in USA, in Europe, and now even in China. The model we have followed of transferring technology from other countries to India is also not going to work. Transfer of technology, to my mind, is an oxymoron. Why? You can transfer specification and documents and the know-how to manufacture something, but technology is not that alone. Technology is a creation. It lives in the mind and the heart of the creator. If you don't have that, it would always be no better than a crutch. A time has come where we have to create technology. And it has to be driven by, in areas where we have large investments. I'll give you two examples. Over the last 20 years, there has been a beeline for all cities to make metros, starting with Delhi Metro. And I don't know, today maybe 20 cities have either got metros or planning for metros. Investment in metro systems have been so far in the range of 5 to 6 lakh crores, and another 3 to 4 crores are in the pipeline. So the civil works are done here, fair enough, but the rolling stock, the trains and the signaling system, that would form about 30-40% of this investment. So let's say a figure of around 2.5 lakh crores has been spent. But have we got technology, the know why for that? No. what we have got is screwdriver technology, assembling. And the brains of the technology lies abroad in Korea or now China, Europe, Japan, and so on. You would remember in 1980s when we used to have foreign exchange crunch, the nostalgic Kolkata metro where the rolling stock was made entirely in India. From that to this assembling technology, that is not progress. With this kind of investment, we should have had great minds in this country developing new metro system and exporting to the world. Look at the solar sector. India is among some top countries which have invested so much in solar systems installation in recent years. But are you aware that most of these solar installations use components which are imported and mostly from China? Be it the cells, be it the lithium-ion batteries, be it the other batteries, be it the electronics. Now I can understand the batteries because we don't have perhaps the raw material of the scale China has. But what about solar cells? Something invented in USA and now 60 to 70% of solar cells of the world manufactured in China. What about electronics? Why is it that in spite of such large investments in the field, even the electronics for solar installations are imported today? Atmanirbhar Bharat cannot take us to the days of reverse engineering because of the crunch of foreign exchange. We cannot revert to the Nehruvian model of import substitution and autarkic isolation, because that would lead to shoddy quality at a high price tag. Today, isolation is not possible even for countries like USA and China. Thanks to our opening up, some Indians, pull themselves by their bootstraps to become supplier of products of reasonable quality, price, and that advantage cannot be frittered away. Absence of innovation cannot hide behind a curtain of protection. Friends, the message has to be very clear that India is not on a path to become a centralized command economy once again. The time has come to free the entrepreneurial, innovative spirit of Indians further from bureaucratic hurdles. It's about self-confidence and pride, not in local brands per se, but local brands of value. Our industry suffers from many structural problems like cost of capital, manufacturing, ecosystem, supply chain, corporate laws, labor laws, frequent change in policies, infrastructure, and of course skill levels. Many of these areas fall in the domain of the government to rectify. It's a good sign that government today is not unapologetic about privatization of PSUs. But we need sustained reforms. The time for talk is over. It's the time to walk the talk. There are so many young people, such young talent with a bee in their bonnet. They're ready to unleash the dormant creator in them. This is a country, when it was denied technology, came up with such products as Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, missiles, and so on. Given the support of government, given the resolve of government to rectify this situation, like some governments in South Korea and China have supported industry, if that happens, 1,000 homegrown technologies would be ready to burgeon, and when that happens, a true Atmanirbhar Bharat will emerge. Friends, I'll stop here. I'll look forward to your comments so that the next session on next Saturday, can be made more meaningful.